Kia ora koutou, Markie here. Okay, hold on to your hats for this one because it's going to be a crazy ride, I think. Welcome to particularly to any new people watching this channel. And there's a lot of them around at the moment because I've just had a lot of new subscribers and just gone over the 1,000 mark at the time of recording this. So I want to say a big thank you for that. I'm going to be doing some lives now, which I'm quite excited about. I'm not doing a live today. I'm not very well. Actually, I had an investigative medical procedure yesterday, just a minor one, but they ended up giving me some treatment at the same time, which was really good. A fantastic service. But it's left me feeling sort of slightly, I've got some after effects, and I'm kind of looking even more grizzled than I normally look. Okay, normally I don't look quite this grizzled. One of my names is the Grizzled Walrus of Retroactive Jealousy, for obvious reasons. Although today we're not going to be talking about retroactive jealousy, we're going to be talking about retro, or certainly old films. Okay, so I call this series Earley's Late ND Reviews. Okay, so Earley, that's my surname. Late because I usually watch things years after everybody else has watched them. So I'm just re-angling the thing so you don't get all my knickknacks in the background. So because I like watching, I'm quite slow to process cultural things, like books and music and stuff like that. So it's not unusual for me to check out a new band that I've not listened to, and it's like The Who, something like that. So, for example, a few years ago, I realised I hadn't really listened much to the Who, so spent a long time checking out The Who. So it takes me a long time to make sense, not to make sense of, but to familiarise myself with music. First couple of listens, I don't always enjoy it that much. I enjoy it more when I get familiar with it. So I'm always looking into old stuff. And that's just how I am, really. So that's the old part. The ND part in the title is neurodiverse. Okay, so some of the new people won't know about all that. The reason this channel is so idiosyncratic is because I am neurodiverse. What's neurodiverse, Markie? Well, check out some of the videos on neurodiversity, which will explain why this channel is like no other. So this channel in itself is not to everyone's taste. I'm kind of very aware of that. I kind of have the feeling that my goal really is two things, really. One, I want to do some sort of very serious videos that reach out about some very important issues, which I want to appeal to everyone, particularly the people that are affected by those issues. But the other side of it is the less serious videos that I do, like this one, for example. I think there are some people that would enjoy my my homely, rambling style. I think there will be a small minority that do, who will become kind of, friends of the channel, and we'll form a relationship, we'll form a bond between you and I, and it'll be like kind of, what they call a cult following, which is where something has a smaller following, but a very enthusiastic one. I'm not a cult, by the way. So don't think I am. I kind of. I kind of think sometimes the dark side of me thinks, wouldn't it be great to be a charismatic cult leader? But unfortunately, I don't have any charisma, so that's as far as it goes, really. And also, I'm kind of I'm too ethical for all that kind of thing, really. I don't like hoodwinking people. I'm all about truth. This channel's all about truth. So that's the channel, okay. So what I do is, the reason why, I shouldn't say this, should I? But I don't recommend this series to anyone, really. It's very self-indulgent. It tends to happen when I've watched a film or a TV program, whatever it is I'm reviewing, and I'm full of enthusiasm and I want to talk about it. I haven't got anyone that I can talk about it to, really. Gwendoline's not, and she doesn't like the kind of crazy films that I watch, so I'm not going to kind of bend her poor little ears on that kind of thing. And also, I kind of quite like the idea of covering things that maybe not many people are talking about. So I suspect that there's not a lot about. I haven't actually looked on YouTube to see if this particular film I want to talk about today has been covered, but I suspect there's not a lot of people talking about this. So that's one of the reasons. So the main reason why not to watch this channel on reviews is I'm the worst person ever to do reviews, because I'm really bad at following plots, so I miss a lot. I've got bad eyes and I always watch on my iPhone, so even visually I miss a lot. I never remember any of the characters' names, and I'm not, as much as I love films, I'm not a film nerd, and I never remember who the director was or anything like that, or the producer, although I in this case, because I've just looked on Wikipedia, this was produced by Roddenberry, and I can't even remember his first name, who did Star Trek. Okay. So lots of reasons why this isn't a good channel. And the other reason is it's full of spoilers. I kind of write these reviews with the viewer in mind, being somebody that's also watched it and is like me and hasn't really got anyone to talk to about it, and just wants to feel less lonely and thrash some ideas around. So maybe we'll have some conversations in just in the comments. Okay, so you're probably tuned out by now. If you're a serious kind of film fan, or you thought that this was going to be a kind of like a swish high production value channel, you probably lost you already. Okay, if you're still with me, then there's a good chance that you like my kind of idiosyncratic and unique style. So good to have you on board, friend. Okay, so Spectre. So I found this by accident on YouTube. Looking for films. It's a TV movie from 1977, and what I just found out recently was it was intended to be a pilot for a TV series, which they never made. Oh God, I just wish they had. It's so good. It's such a good film. I do think another thing to say is I'm a big fan of horror, but I think there are so few good horror films. Appallingly few good horror films. Appallingly low number of horror films that are actually watchable, that are actually good. I think, and they tend to be not always, but often the older ones. So I have reviewed some newer stuff on here. I reviewed Midsummer recently, and I do like some of the newer films. But I like the old ones. I like the old British ones as well. I didn't actually realise that this film was British. That's something I discovered from Wikipedia, because it starts off in America and then moves over to the UK. But it has got quite a high number of British cast, including John Hurt, who's brilliant in this. Okay, so right, before we go any further, have you watched this? If you haven't watched this film and you think you might like it, stop listening to me, stop watching me, go away and watch the film. No, it's actually free on YouTube. So Spectre, I think it's a Spectre 70s TV movie. That's how I found it. I don't like to put links to, much as I enjoy people that post films and music and stuff onto YouTube, much as I take personal and selfish advantage of that, I'm always a bit anxious about linking to that kind of thing, in case the copyright police kind of come my way. I'm sure they wouldn't. That's just me being over cautious, but I don't like to link to stuff. But if you search Spectre 1970s TV movie, you will find it. Go and watch it, and then join me later. Okay, welcome back. So spoilers galore. So I love this film. Why did I love this film? I've got a bee in my bonnet about occult-based themes that make stuff up and make it up very badly, when there's actually a very good body of occult information and knowledge that can be drawn upon to therefore make it more realistic. Now, when I say realistic, I'm not saying that demons manifest physically in this world and that was a realistic portrayal of it. What I'm saying is it's realistically based on true beliefs about the occult, and true occult practices. Whether the occult is real or not is another question, and what do we mean by real anyway? So I like the fact that they used a real demon, Asmodeus. I shouldn't keep saying the demon's name, should I? They also made use of a sigil, which is something that's accurate to occult practice. So the sigils don't tend to look like that. Sigils tend to be a little bit more complex. So a sigil, for those that don't know, is a symbol, and according to occult lore, a lot of demons that have been worked with by occultists have a sigil, which is the same root as signature. So they have a symbol, and by using the symbol, you can invoke them more effectively. So sigils tend to be, they look like they've been drawn with pen and ink usually, which they would have been, because these can go back to the 15th century and what have you. This one looked like it had been done in a paintbrush kind of thing. And it was in red, but that's okay because they do have colours, colours associated with in occult lore. But normally the ones that are around are things that people have kind of retrieved from very old grimoires and tomes written by wise and weird men with long pointy beards from centuries ago, and they were scratched with a quill. So therefore they're not usually like that. But that's a very mild criticism. I've got a few criticisms of this film, but they're all quite mild. I can let them all go and say this is a really good film. Okay, so why did I like the film? One, because of at least a nod towards occult accuracy. Real demon, they use sigils. So they had succubus, which is true to occult lore. That's not usually how kind of succubuses roll, but I'm going to let that go. Apocryphal Book of Tobit. I don't know if that's actually a real book, but it probably is. So I like that. Taking somebody's hair to use in a spell. I like that. The seal on the door. I like that. I mean, seals are often in a cult. They're often not kind of so much physical seals as magical seals. But yeah, the idea of a seal and binding a demon, that's kind of true to it. So very good. So I'd give it 8.5 out of 10 for occult accuracy. Not that if you were a stickler, you'd pick loads of holes in the occult accuracy, but I think in my view they had enough occult accuracy for me to enjoy it, and not exactly suspend disbelief, because I think films like this you don't really suspend disbelief, do you? But yeah, it satisfied my requirement for occult accuracy, or I'd say aesthetic occult accuracy. So it's not necessarily accurate, but it kind of looks like it might be. Okay, that's how I would judge a film, an occult film. Really is I like to. If you're going to use an occult premise for a film, I like the occult stuff, the occult elements in there to at least look as though they might be accurate. Okay, they don't have to be accurate, but they need to look as though they're accurate. And I felt really this had a strong whiff of the. People have said it's a lot like Holmes and Watson. And I guess because you have a difficult lead character and then a doctor in a slightly supporting role. So yes, I guess that's, I don't know. That's as far as I saw the Holmes Watson thing. I'm not saying the Holmes Watson thing isn't there, but that's not what I took from this film. So yeah, definitely a kind of a Dennis Wheatley, a nod to Dennis Wheatley. Second thing that I liked the sophistication of the plot. Lots and lots of twisty turns. Some of which I saw coming, some of which I didn't. Third thing that I liked was the humour, and the way that it was very dry, very underplayed kind of humour, and the interplay between the two characters. That's three things. Fourth thing that I liked, that I kind of found was quite interesting, was I liked the way it started with the the kind of the narrated part that I'm going to see somebody that I haven't seen for a long time who's a bit of an arsehole, to paraphrase. So the character, because I always forget names. So the character that wasn't the Doctor, the character that is visited by the Doctor character, and the premise that he's, I can't remember what the exact words are at the start of the film. It's just, basically that he's, setting up the fact that there's a love-hate relationship between these two characters, and that he experiences the other character is extremely difficult. And I think he says sort of selfish. He implies that he's a bit of a narcissist. But it's interesting, okay, because I would say that the character was autistic, because he talks about his lack of manners. He's somebody who becomes obsessive about his interests. So he was a forensic scientist, and then suddenly he's got hugely interested in the occult, and to the extent that he's got lots of his whole room is decked out with a cult paraphernalia from every culture, and he's amassed this huge library, and he's learned everything. And when he comes in, when the doctor character's called Amos, isn't he? So when Amos, I always think of Emmerdale Farm with Amos. No, Mr. Wilkes. That's a reference for the British people, old British people. When he visits the other guy in his house, he doesn't get a proper greeting because the guy's immersed in something. He's doesn't look like tarot cards, but he's doing something with some images on some cards, isn't he? When he comes in. So I thought interesting, and I doubt very much whether that he was consciously created as an Aspergic character or an autistic character or a high-functioning autism. See my videos on autism, if you, especially the Q&A one, which probably explains this stuff better than some of the others. I think that he's portrayed as a narcissistic character, a difficult character, but actually he's actually high-functioning autism, which can make for very difficult characters. Okay, and I think on some level I've often posited whether Sherlock Holmes, funny enough, was an autistic character. Certainly he was somebody with what I would call a spiky profile in terms of some things about the Sherlock Holmes character. He was a genius on some levels, but there were other areas where he really struggled and where he had below average knowledge, which is often the way with people who are neurodiverse, autism being a neurodiverse condition. So that's another thing that I like, that they kind of created this kind of slightly difficult, slightly edgy, what's the word? Not really edgy, slightly taciturn, not overly warm, slightly, what's the word? Aloof character. So I would say autistic, high-functioning autism. Very well portrayed, probably by accident. So, because people that write novels and do screenplays and things base their characters on people that they know, and on typical characters, and on composites of people that they know and stuff. So, so another thing that I liked. Okay, so minor criticisms. So yeah, the sigil, I kind of was a little bit picky about the sigil, but I like the idea. Excuse me, that there was a sigil there. Yeah, anachronisms. So they're digging a cellar under this amazing mansion house that was an old abbey. They're making a wine cellar, and that's this is the history of the film, and they discover the sealed the binding place of Asmodeus, but also it's under this stone circle. So I'm guessing that the wine cellar extended, which was outside the house. So I'm guessing the wine cellar extended outside the house and went underneath the stone circle. So that's a bit confusing. I'm not so sure about that. I liked the bit about, I liked that they called it the Druid's fire pit. I thought that was kind of nice. I liked that it was a stone circle, and I quite liked how it looked, but another bugbear of mine is how stone circles are portrayed on film and TV. And they're usually based on Stonehenge. Now, Stonehenge is like a one-off, really. There's nothing like Stonehenge. I've got an interest in stone circles. I've visited loads of stone circles and ancient sites and things. Studied it quite a lot. but correct me if I'm wrong. I think Stonehenge is the only place where you find the sculpted stones with a lintel across the top. So you get two big uprights and a lintel, which is something that joins like the top of a door. That's a lintel that goes across the top. Now you do get something that could be mistaken for that. You do get dolmens, cromlechs, quoits, as they're often called, which are where you get kind of usually at least three upright stones supporting a big flat horizontal stone. And I think people confuse, and they're much more common. And one belief is that they were actually they were the burial chambers, and then they were covered with earth, and that it's only kind of erosion and grave robbers and time that have left them as just exposed stones. Although I'm never quite convinced about that. Which look kind of similar, but in TV and stuff, they're always portraying stuff like stone. I was actually in a film. I started to do a series on my show busy name dropping and memoirs and stuff. I was in a terrible film called King Arthur that was it Kate Winslet that was in it? Awful film, but it was a kind of a Dark Ages era, but they were kind of they set a wedding scene outside the stone circle, and the stone circle wasn't supposed to be Stonehenge because it was on the coast. Stonehenge is not on the coast, folks. But it was built like Stonehenge, and parts of this stone circle were built like Stonehenge. So I have a bit of a but I'm very picky about this sort of stuff. I'm particularly picky. I'm also a druid. I'd like to say I'm a lapsed druid, really. I've done other videos about that. So I'm always kind of very picky about anything that people, any references people make to druids. Now, the druids were not the stone circle builders, and they certainly weren't the cromlech, quoits, dolmen builders who were there earlier. It was a culture before the druids. And it's probably only really modern druids, as I say modern druids from, you get a bit of a history lesson with me as well. The rambles and the tangents are the most interesting bit, okay? That's what you need to get with my videos, if you get through them. It was modern druids. When I say modern druids, the neo-druids, the druids societies that started forming in the late 18th, 19th and early 20th century, they were the ones that started doing ceremonies at Stonehenge. So historically, there is not a link between druids and stone circles, because as far as we're aware, the Celtic culture that gave birth to the druids came much later than the stone circle building culture. But it's all part of one, continuous evolving spiritual spiritual journey, really, of the peoples of Britain and Northern Europe. So they talked about the druids, but they weren't getting that kind of right, really. But they did talk about things being pre-druid, some of the symbols being pre-druid, which I thought was kind of quite cool. Although they didn't look like that. Pre-druid symbols, we do have pre-druid symbols, and they're often much more simple, and they're not in that style. But nice try. Nice training. So, what am I trying to say? I'm rambling ridiculously now. So, but there is a point to this. Big criticism is that they made the stone circle like Stonehenge. Really, that's what I'm trying to say. When there is only one Stonehenge, and a little mini criticism about the dating of druids and stuff like that. But actually, they didn't get that too bad. And they were a bit sketchy about that anyway, really. I like that they called it the Druid's Fire Pit. The fact that it was a tar pit that kind of spontaneously bursts, gave forth bursts of flame. Tar pits don't do that, do they? I'm pretty sure they don't. Tell me if you're a tar pit specialist, but I'm pretty sure they don't. But I kind of liked the vibe of that. That was kind of quite nice. So like I say, all these flaws I can kind of forgive. It's like with a friend, somebody you like, you can forgive their flaws. Somebody you don't like, you don't forgive any of their flaws. Well, I don't anyway. The chamber, the way it was sealed. So who was supposed to have sealed it? Were the druids supposed to have sealed it? druids didn't build chambers, and it didn't build underground complexes underneath their stone circles. Well, the druids didn't have stone circles, but stone circle builders didn't. The culture that built stone circles didn't do that. But yeah, there we go. Doctor Who, they've even got that. They've even got a secret kind of James Bond type underground complex below Stonehenge. So there are some anachronisms. So yeah, the tar pit thing, yeah, you know, factually dodgy, but aesthetically kind of quite nice. Those doors in that chamber, you know, they were not doors built in the Druid era. You know, they're kind of, you know, sort of medieval doors, really, aren't they? So although they were rather good, and the fact that, you know, it was sealed with this gold seal, and a round gold seal, that'd be quite druidic, really. Yeah, sun, you know, the sun and gold and the circle and things like that were kind of druidic symbols. And the fact that different cultures got together, I like that, to banish the demon. But yeah, time wise, you know, those doors, they look good, but they weren't doors from the Druid period. So somebody, you know. So they could have, you know, maybe somebody came along afterwards. Maybe you know, maybe they appointed a guardian. You know, maybe there was one family or whatever that were entrusted to, you know, keep the seal safe or whatever, and different generations. But you know, I would say those seals actually, I would say they were like those doors, more like kind of 18th century doors. I would say. So I'm very picky. I'm very picky about history and stuff. But I forgive all. Yeah, that's, and yeah, the fact that you pushed on one of the stones and it opened up a secret entryway. It's like, well, yeah, you know, historical culture, it's not going to be able to do that, you know, and if they are, it's not going to last so that you can use it in the modern era. So maybe they should have had something about some continuity through history of people looking after this site. That would have solved a lot of those problems. But yeah, people pushing on stones in stone circles and them revealing hidden passages is that's a bit daft. So character wise, John Hurt, don't you just love him? Yeah, nicely done, and they made him big. You know, they really. I didn't know John Hurt was a little guy. You know, because he's kind of, you know, very noticeably shorter and smaller than everyone else in the films, and the most likable one. Yeah, and then he comes in this kind of like huge costume, you know, and he's got this demonic voice. Very good, I like that. The guy that played the Jeffrey, the older brother, I quite liked him because he did look like a cabinet minister. I think he was supposed to be a cabinet minister or something like that, wasn't he? So he's like an establishment character. The guy whose name I've already forgotten, who played the policeman, he's great, love him. He played that very well. Didn't see that coming. That took me by surprise. And yeah, special effects. I mean, there was a lot of smoke around, I think, which is kind of good. The kind of when Asmodeus kind of turned into his demonic form, it did look a bit daft. But it was a TV movie. It was from 1977. Well, then, you know, we had Star Wars around about then with really good effects. And I thought it looked like a kind of pale green version of Barney, the dinosaur. There might have even been a Barney costume that they used and resprayed pale green. So that kind of amused me, but I chose to. I think I almost averted my eyes during those scenes, or almost squinted so that didn't spoil it for me. Yeah. What else? Really? What else? Oh. Going back to the characters, I like the fact they were both flawed, and I like the fact that Amos was, you know, a bit of a kind of a dirty old man, really, and that he'd kind of got into trouble at work for his drinking, and so I like the fact that he was kind of not a perfect character, but I also like the fact that they were kind of onto him, that he was kind of getting into trouble, because often when they show these, you know, these kind of bad behaviours from from these films, from people in professional roles. They kind of make out that that's all being colluded with and accepted, but actually he was under investigation for his drinking and God knows what, really. So yeah, I don't know, kind of the Me Too movement. Was Amos, was he a predator? I don't know. He was certainly quite forward. But hopefully, I don't think they made him too bad. I think they made him flawed without making him kind of seem like a predatory sex pest in the office type thing. Why didn't they make this a series? This would have been great. And apparently, this is what they called a was it a cult detective subgenre, which there's very little really. There's very little that I'm aware of. There's things that are kind of on the periphery of that, like Constantine. I've talked in some of the videos about the Jack Nightingale novels by Stephen Leather. They would certainly fall into the occult detective genre. I think it's a great idea for a genre. I have lots of ideas as it comes to this, having ADHD. And one of my ideas, I used to do murder mystery acting, which maybe talk about that in some of my showbiz anecdotes and all, because there were lots of low-grade failed actors that had the biggest egos you could imagine. They were raging narcissists in that, and they were doing murder mystery acting. It was kind of really quite interesting. But I used to do that, and I often had a little fantasy to myself that maybe it'd be fun to set up my own and make it kind of paranormal, so you're in the hotel and people are eating, and there might be the murder, or it might not be a murder, but something occurs that's of a paranormal nature, and somebody who seems like maybe they're one of the guests stands up and says, "Don't worry, everybody, I'm a paranormal expert. I will solve this mystery," and you kind of do the whole murder mystery thing. When I say murder mystery, okay, I just need to kind of clarify that a little bit, I guess, because I'm talking about murder mystery evenings, not murder mystery films. So murder mystery evening is where you pay for a nice dinner, usually in a posh venue, and a small team of failed actors, such as myself, provide some tableside entertainment. So the way it used to work is, another ramble, but an interesting one, hopefully. The way it used to work is, we would kind of begin the evening with some kind of setup or introductory scenario, and there'd be set piece acting events throughout the evening. But it was all improvised, really. Just based on a very loose plot. And then we would eat. We'd sit down and have a meal with the guests. And chat to them in character. So it'd be scoffing your roast chicken or whatever, and the person sitting next to you would be asking you questions to try and work out who the murderer was and that kind of thing. So that's what I mean by murder mystery evening. And the idea is you guess who the murderer is. Which, the company idea, they had some good things going for them, but the plots were terrible. Anybody could have done it, really. It wasn't kind of very well thought out at all, really. It was, wasn't really much of a plot. Very, very loosely flung together, really. But having been very critical of my colleagues and stuff, and the organisation, or as my friend Dawn would say, I've just chopped their head off and now I'm trying to stitch it back on. They were very good with humour. They played it all. It was incredibly hammy, deliberately. It was like kind of Carry On murder mystery, really. We played it all for laughs, and it was very, very hammy, lots of double entendre, lots of silliness, really. And it was quite funny. And around about that time, I was developing my stand-up comedy work, and I found it really helpful for that, actually, because you're doing lots of ad-libbing, you're kind of making jokes on the spot, you're interacting with people. It's very good training for that. And I always recommend aspiring comedians, join a murder mystery organisation and do some of that, because that's like, basically it's improvised comedy. That's how we were playing it. So after a very long tangent, it's a long review of probably a short film. I loved it. I thought it was great. And with the humour, it's just nice to get that level of humour just right. often, in fact, usually, really, most dramas where they have a little bit of humour, I don't enjoy the humour. Quite often I find the humour just a bit irritating or a bit superfluous, or, you know, it doesn't do anything for me. Because often it's, I don't know, this is just a kind of jolting juxtapositioning with the drama, really, and kind of, you know, very kind of sort of thrown in, you know. Whereas this was kind of nicely underplayed, you know, very nicely underplayed humour, which I enjoyed. So, yeah, and apparently I looked on Wikipedia, there was another, I think it might have been a TV programme or it was a movie that Roddenberry made before this that was drawing on some of the same themes. I can't remember what it's called. It's Quest for something, I think. So I'm going to look that up on YouTube and watch that. So if I'm really impressed with that, I might do another video. So there we go. You, if you were doubting me before about why I should not do film and movie or any sort of review series, books is different. But any TV, film, videos where I shouldn't do them. You now know why, and if you got to the end of this video, I love you. You know, you must be, we must be soulmates if you've stuck with me this long. So, thank you for watching. Please do all the things that help a channel, like subscribe. Like click the little notification bell so you get all my other videos, most of which are more sensible than this one. Click the like button, leave a nice little friendly comment, share it, tell your friends about it, or even sign up on my Patreon channel. That's wonderful, because that helps us financially. So, which this one doesn't at the moment, so I'm not monetized yet, and I doubt many of my videos will actually meet the standard for monetization for one reason or another. So, thank you very much, and have a good day. Rangimarie.